Today we return to the writings of Charles Williams, whose biography we covered in episode 31. First we shall review Many Dimensions from 1931. Sir Giles, British traveller and archaeologist, and his nephew, Reginald Montagu, are visited by a Persian prince demanding Reginald return a stone he had bought off a Persian curator some time ago. The cube stone set in a circlet of gold is the white stone, the end of desire, the stone adorning the crown of King Solomon. The stone is always the same as it was, and no matter how much is chipped off, it will never change in size, the prince says, and it has many other powers besides. The prince's demand for Reginald to return the stone falls on deaf ears, as Reginald wishes to use the stone's power of instantaneous travel in order to become rich. This made, the prince plans with his uncle, the Haji Ibrahim, and the Haji involves the Lord Chief Justice Arglay, Gilles's brother-in-law, as well as his secretary, Miss Chloe Burnet. Reginald, in the meantime, conducts experiments with the stone, including attempted time travel, but the results are either confusing or purgatorial, depending on where one wishes to travel. At the same time, there is intrigue, attempted murder and robbery in order to recover the stone. And what's worse, several copies of the stone are made without the original being diminished at all, and one of these becomes known for its amazing healing properties, which results in massive riots by the population, demanding the stone be used to cure their terminal illnesses, which the government refuses to do. The story, though perhaps less etheric than Williams's other novels, and despite the bursts of action at times, quite sedentary for long periods, is still quite exciting and manages to be philosophical without being meandering and preachy. Second, we shall cover his 1932 Shadows of Ecstasy. In this novel, we meet Roger, a philosophical poet bandying about philosophical illusions and witty parables in the typical Williams fashion. His friend, Sir Bernard, the retired cynical stomach surgeon, and some lesser characters, besides the imposing personage of Nigel Considine. Sir Bernard is fascinated by him, and eventually discovers why. He finds an old photo of Considine, as he is in the present, meeting with Sir Bernard's grandfather when Sir Bernard was only a child. Roger and co discuss this coincidence, but Sir Bernard is convinced it is the same man, despite the fact he'd have to be around 200 years old. But soon, there are more worrying news. In the British colonies of Africa, massive uprisings begin, driving off the colonial powers, while a communiqué is delivered to Britain, speaking of the second evolution of man, making wild claims about suppressing desire and reshaping the world, authored by an anonymous high executive. At the same time, the future employer of Sir Bernard's nephew, who has business ventures in Africa, kills himself for no real reason, and his marvellous collection of jewels is given to his orthodox relatives, who plan to use them to decorate and adorn the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem, to the great disdain of the angry mob milling about in the street. However, this is still less pressing news than the sudden deployment of African armies conducting air raids and bombing London to force the European powers into submission, while African soldiers are deployed to cause further panic in the capital. Roger himself finds the need to save an exiled Zulu king from an angry mob following these events. It turns out all this is being orchestrated by Nigel Considine, the high executive, who, initiated into the secrets with which he bound to himself the chiefs and sorcerers of Africa, intends to force the second evolution of man upon the world, so that he can transmute pain and unfulfilled desire into his ultimate goal, the conquest of death. Roger, strangely fascinated by Considine, finds himself leaving with him when he vacates the capital to command his submarine and aerial fleet from a house by the sea, accompanied by an irate priest intending to avenge the deaths of missionaries all over Africa, and the inheritor of the jewels, which shall play a pivotal role in the final history of Nigel Considine. The novel has more action than the previous, and the antagonist is quite more intimidating due to his immense psychic powers. It is a tour de force which, though it never leaves British soil, makes you feel the power that Considine exerts over an entire continent, and just what he may use that power for.